Hey guys, okay, so today's look is pretty different from what we usually do. It's definitely way out of my comfort zone. It's a cut crease, probably the one of the first cut creases I've ever done, and even though I loved the outcome, it's very dramatic, very drag queen like, and I loved the overall result. I just feel like pink eyeshadows are just not for me. Can we all agree on that? I'm looking at this tutorial and I'm like, who is this girl? I don't recognize her. But anyways, we're starting off with taking some surgical tape, putting it on the back of my hand a couple of times, making sure it's not as tacky anymore before I go in and apply it on the corners of my eyes in the shape that I want my eye look to be. And today we're going to start the eye look on the inner corners. Again, very different from what we usually do. I'm taking the shade Creamsicle on kind of a pencil brush or a smudge brush, and I really just want to blend it on like the inner half of my eye. So really blending it there, concentrating the majority of the shade on like the transition part of the inner corner, and then drag whatever is left on my brush a little outwards. Then I'm going to take the shade Hans and I'm going to apply it like on the center of my eye, blending it a little bit in the yellow shade that I applied earlier, and then also blending it a little outwards. So with this eye look, a technique that I'm using is every time I'm done applying a new shade and I've blended it to my satisfaction, I will go back in with the previous shade one more time just to make sure you've not lost any pigmentation in all the blendings. So that's why I'm going back in with Creamsicle one more time. And then I'm going to take the shade Jax, which is kind of a red. So we are transitioning from yellow to orange to red, which is exactly why we don't want to lose any pigmentation. But this time I'm again blending this color a little into the orange and then dragging it all the way to where my tape is kind of ending. And this is really what's going to make it look very neat and harshly cut there on the edge and just make it look so dramatic and drag queen like. Then once I'm done blending the red on the outer corners, I'm going to go back in with the orange, the shade known as Hans, one more time, blending it a little bit in the red and a little bit in the yellow. And then I'll pick up yellow again and blend it again, because these colors are like from the same color family, which is why we just want to make sure that they don't muddy up together and kind of look like one same color. We want all of them to have a presence of their own. And then I'm going to take the shade Abyss, which is the black shade in the palette, and I'm taking the tape on the corners of my eyes as a guide, and I'm going to start drawing on a wing with this eyeshadow. I didn't use a gel eyeliner here, I didn't use a liquid liner here. The black liner kind of impression that you see is just this black eyeshadow. And then to make sure that it's not too harsh, I mean it's still going to be pretty harsh, but just to soften it up just a little bit, I'm taking that red shade one more time and blending my outer corner a little bit more. Then I just took some translucent powder on a very tiny blending brush and I just went over my entire eye to make sure that it's kind of diffused and not very harsh. So then I'm going to take the torch shape tape and cut my crease. I'm doing it for the first time, so bear with me. I'm probably not doing a very good job here, but let's pretend that I am. And then I took the shade Obsessed, and as I'm recording this voiceover, I'm kind of noticing a mistake in my editing. The red circle is supposed to be on the color Obsessed, but it's kind of misplaced. But anyways, just so you know, I'm taking the shade Obsessed, which is kind of a classic all over the lid champagne-y kind of shade in the palette, and I just put it everywhere where I laid down that concealer. Then I'm taking the shade Cranapple and kind of using it as a buffer between the outer corners and the shade Obsessed, because I don't want that transition to be too harsh. which is why I'm using this shade. It does have a little bit of shimmer in it. It's not completely matte, but it's not shimmery to the point where it's a little uncomfortable on the outer corners. So I'm just using that shade. And then I'm retouching the black liner just to make sure we haven't lost any of that in applying the concealer and all of these other shades on top. So then I took the shade Jax, the red one more time, and blended it on my outer corners. Then I took Cran Apple again. So basically there's a lot of blending here. I just blended it until I was satisfied with the way that this looked. Like I said, this is the first time I'm doing a cut crease. So I kind of winged it until I was satisfied. I applied a little bit of Obsessed again. And then for my lower lash line, I didn't take off the tape because I wanted the lower lash line to be really connected to the upper lash line. And that's what's going to make it look so dramatic. I'm using all the same shades. I'm using red on the outer corners, orange in the center, and then yellow on like the inner corners. But then I'm taking black and I'm going to really smudge it very, very, very close to my lower lash line. You really don't want to bring this down. I'm applying it right on top of the lower lash line. And then of course I took some kohl eye pencil, applied it to my waterline and my tight line. Nothing complicated. Then I'm just going to take off the tape very gently, and it's going to reveal a very, very harsh sounds a bad word. It's looking very dramatic, and that's what I was going for. I did have some fallout with this eye look because I was working with so many dark colors, so I fluffed it away with some powder and a powder brush, applied my mascara, and that's pretty much it. And here I am looking very unlike me, very different. Who is this girl? But anyways guys, I hope you enjoyed this little tutorial, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye.